Fox Bait Show. For our first guest, Tambu. Hello, Tambu. How have you been since the last time we've heard from you?
Well, I've been great. After getting a great education at my Uncle Baba Mukuru's mission, I was lucky enough to study at the Catholic Mission Sacred Heart. From there, I followed in my aunt and uncle's footsteps to study in South Africa and even went to England where I became a doctor.
Wow, that's amazing. Now that you're a doctor, where do you work?
Well, I went back to Zimbabwe and now I'm helping with the AIDS epidemic as well as help fight malaria. As you know, more than 25 million people have died from AIDS since 1981, and 14 million orphans in Africa are infected with HIV. This epidemic has been growing exponentially, especially in Africa. 67% of people infected live in Africa. This rate is far too high for me, and as a doctor I try to help as many people as I possibly can. As my cousin Nyasha taught me, you must always help your people because if you don't, no one else will.
That's excellent work. Can you tell us how different Zimbabwe is now that it was when you grew up? Also, was it hard to go back and adjust to the culture? Is it the same way Nyasha struggled?
Well, when I grew up there, we were very poor and only ate stadza until I experienced living on the mission. There, I lived a more privileged life and received a very good education. However, many people were so poor, including my family, that sending a child to get an education was impossible. Today's literacy rates are in the 90th percentile, the highest in Africa, though the poverty rates are still alarming. As far as going back, it was a major change, though I had an easier time than Nyasha because I had grown up there and learned the culture rather than having to adjust. Though traveling to Europe was a major shock, no matter how much my cousin prepared me.
Zimbabwe certainly has changed, and I'm glad you were able to adjust. Now about the book, what was the scene that changed you the most?
I definitely would have to say the day when Nyasha and Baba Mukuru got in an argument. I got to see firsthand Nyasha's strong will and how she really had to change her behavior to fit in. This entire culture change was very hard on her, and seeing her struggle changed me. In my opinion, she was too disrespectful to her father, and he had very high expectations of her. Nyasha's angelicaism had shown through here, especially when she hit her father. I was so afraid for her life because it was so incredibly wrong for her at this time. This day really showed me how hard it was for her to adjust, as well as prove to me that you have to know when to stop.
That scene also stood out for me. And now we have Nyasha here to discuss the experience herself. Hello.
Hello everyone, thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. Would you like to share your thoughts on that particular day?
Well, that day was a major turning point in my life. I realized that I had to change my behaviors that I learned back in England because I was no longer there. I also learned that I had to be careful about how far I was going to prove my point.
What was going through your mind when you hit your father?
All I could think about was how wrong it was for him to hit me. I was so angry to be called those names, especially by him. I wanted to show him how wrong he was, and I finally exploded after a long time of resentment. All that was going through my mind was how wrong he was and how right I was. So I hit him to prove my point.
That was shocking for the time. How is your relationship with your father now?
We are on much better terms now. We get along, and he and my mother often visit me, and I do go home quite often. They are very proud parents of Tambu, Chido, my brother, and I.
That's excellent that your relationship is well with him, because it was very rocky for a while. Now what are you doing?
Well, I finally put my arguing skills to good use. I am now a lawyer and I specialize in helping African refugees who flee war, discrimination, as well as genocide, achieve political asylum. This work is truly inspiring because I get to help people who are in need, just as I learned from Tambu when I was struggling with my eating disorder.
That is very honorable work and truly an inspiring story the both of you have. Tambu, you have had to overcome so many obstacles, such as poverty, sexism, and racism, and you still go back and help others. And Nyasha, you have had to deal with an eating disorder and many family problems. Yet you are strong enough to help others overcome their problems. You both are truly inspiring women, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on the show. This is Alex Bates, signing off.